Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Discourse Assembly, where you will find the answers to the greatest questions ever conceived by man. Don't believe me? You'll just have to keep watching. All right. Today, we are talking about cops. Kind of. What was that, Greg? What was that, Greg?
We're off to a great start.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as I've seen Greg quiet.
Yeah, I know.
Ouch. Gadoom tish. So, with everything going on that we have discussed in our previous videos, we've got the rioting, we've got everything. We also have more reactions that are taking place that we're going to discuss. We're going to ask the question, are they extreme? Are they warranted? You'll be the judge. Well, we'll be the judge, and then you'll be the judge of us being the judge, actually. So, Mike, you brought up the article regarding the cancellation of some shows. You want to touch base on that a little bit?
Yeah, I actually would like to touch base on that because if people aren't aware, there have been some show cancellations going on. One of them being, Cops, which has been around for 31 years, and also Live PD, that's been around for a while now too. All because they show cops and they can show cops in a positive light. And I know some people are going to be like, okay, you know what? I kind of agree with that. We don't want to show cops doing those types of things, which is just their job in general. People are so touchy right now. But one of the ridiculous things that we're seeing is this right here. A New York Times writer claims good cops on television cover up the violence of the system, and they're actually focusing on Paw Patrol, a children's TV show for, I don't know, kids under 7.
We don't want kids growing up to be cops, Mike. Obviously.
Absolutely. And it's a form of brainwashing.
That's exactly.
Right? We're brainwashing them to believe that cops are here to protect us. It's not their job. Their job is to beat us and kill us, apparently.
No, their job is to protect property rights. That's what their actual job is, but that's a whole other thing.
The question is, are cops evil? Are there no good cops? Apparently, that's what they're trying to say. Because why would it matter if you have a show that has a representation of a cop that is doing good? Why is that a problem?
Why don't you answer that question yourself before we answer, Matt?
Sure. The answer is cops are not evil. People can be evil.
All cops are not evil. Is that what you're saying?
But all cops are not evil. That's very true. Is that point not coming across?
No, it's coming across. I'm just making sure that's the point you want to make.
There are evil cops. There are evil bakers. There are evil bus drivers. It's across the board. Of course, we have to fix the rules and the policies inside of an institution that has authority over citizens, right? That's what has to be fixed, but not all cops are evil. And in fact, the majority of cops are good people and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Depends on how you see it. Yeah.
Well, I don't have the exact statistics, but I saw there was that police chief, and I forget which city he was out of, but he was stating how many positive interactions occur every year with police and citizens, and it's millions of interactions.
345 million.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
But
You're welcome.
There's I don't know. We're here in Michigan. We don't usually have the problems that we see on TV, right? I mean, I know we do have some issues, but I don't remember like riots and having to put down, like having, almost like military police come in and like stomp down riots, and we don't have a lot of that here. So I don't know. My wife was making that, trying to make a correlation between, the kind of the right wing protests that open up where they, came in with their guns and the cops didn't do anything. There's no riots till like, okay, they go to Seattle and they're, obviously African American mostly, and then there's riots, right? And then there's riot gears. People come in. There's tear gas, and I guess my point there is that's not a one-to-one correlation though either.
It's not.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have a history in Michigan. The composition's different. We obviously are allowed to open carry. That's a law here. I'm not saying that there isn't a racial disparity between those two things, but I can't draw a line exactly to just saying white people never get riot gear and get tear gassed in their protests, and then black people do.
Yeah,
Always do.
well, real quick, this is stick with this real quick though. I mean, I'm looking at this article here, and one of the quotes that was brought up is, yes, the fastest surveillance state indoctrination cartoon is coming out against police brutality. Surely this is authentic and genuine. Is a comment that was made because Paw Patrol actually did show in solidarity. They did a hashtag amplify melanated voices, and they posted saying that they were muted and they were listening, and that was a comment they got because they have a dog that's a cop on the show. I mean, it's just at the point now where people are looking at anything and everything, and
we're overcorrecting.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Derek Chauvin, however you say his name, was the villain. He was absolutely a villain. That doesn't mean that the entire police force across the country is filled with villains. We have to take these case by case. And there have been other cases, but you take them individually.
Yeah, but I think there's something more than that. I don't think that's going to work anymore. Obviously, we've had, our previous videos where we talked about it. There is a Black Lives moment happening, right? And I think we have to look a little bit. There is some institutional issues now, and I think we need to address that. And there are places that did it. I forget, Mike. Do you remember the one city that already disbanded their police force and rebuilt it?
Are you talking about Camden, New Jersey? They didn't
Camden, New Jersey.
They didn't rebuild. What they did is they pretty much got rid of their city, and they kept their county and their state police. And that are the police officers in Camden now, rather than...
No, they fired everyone, and they rehired them. I listened to, and it was probably on NPR, the police chief that talked about it, where, they fired everyone from the... I mean, they still work, but at one point they did fire everyone, and they rehired them, and they had different policies when they came back, and they basically rebuilt the culture to kind of serve the community and be guardians versus, okay, we're enforcement, right? Mm-hmm. It was a different mindset.
Because there was Camden, New Jersey, who did get rid of their police force, I believe, but they kept their state and county. And
yeah, that's
who they use today.
That's not what I heard.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there doesn't need to be reform, but there doesn't need to be. I think the reaction is completely an overcorrection. Like you said, it's too far.
Well. To be clear, not the protests. You're talking about
the reaction about canceling TV shows that have
right
in a good light or whatever.
You should just be clear about that, because I don't want everyone to think, because we already had those videos. They don't watch those. They won't know our position on them.
In context,
go watch our other videos.
Yeah,
you should
subscribe now.
They're amazing.
Yeah, Matt didn't say that. You should like and
smash that like button. But in the proper context, we're not talking about the protests at all right now. We're talking about
right.
What's going on with these overarching sweeps of just this change everything? It doesn't matter. It's just we're going to change anything and everything. And a lot of it is just people just overreacting to any type of thing that's going on. Like a kid show? Like it's Paw Patrol.
Yeah.
I've never
that
seen
and Legos,
an
right?
Yeah.
Legos, they stopped selling and pulling. It's just that's a little bit much for me.
Yeah, but then they got blasted because they actually weren't getting rid of them. They just stopped.
Right.
So yeah, they tried, but they failed
Listen,
miserably.
to this type of stuff, as a company, you don't bend the knee. You're not going to win. And I think these companies are going to win, are going to learn that. You don't bend the knee. Sorry. Companies should not be getting involved in this type of stuff, in my opinion. I don't like it. Because they're hypocrites. And I know we talked about a possible segment about these companies being hypocrites. And it doesn't look good for them. For the people that actually research it and don't just take it at, service level.
Well, most of the time it comes off as they are trying to, they're trying to up their value as a brand by doing these things. It doesn't feel like it's out of solidarity. It feels like we want to push our brand,
like
put
pandering?
It out there.
It looks like pandering.
It looks like pandering. Yeah,
that's exactly.
Absolutely.
I mean, do you think they're not looking at this and taking, looking at this as a risk? They're like, okay, what's our cost here? What's this going to cost?
They never
us?
do.
How much money are we going to make on this? They're like, what side are we going to take here? They do that. They do a cost benefit analysis, and they're like, if we
I don't
take
think
this,
so. No, I don't think they're doing it. I think they have people that are they're sympathetic to this. They're looking at the news. The news is definitely, it's slanted in a certain direction, and they're saying, this is safe to put out. But what they're looking at is they're looking at just what's in front of their eyes. They're not really looking at the country and the people, right? And what really is happening. So that's where it kind of backfires. And then, okay, these marketing people don't know what the corporate people are doing. So we had those articles, especially about Disney and Lucasfilm, right? Where they're like, we stand for black people and all this stuff. But then they go around in China, they get rid of Finn on the posters, right? They make them tiny because, let's be honest, China, they're a little bit kind of racist.
No, they are.
Most of the world
racist,
is a little bit kind of racist. So,
a little bit.
Let's, in terms of America, we may be some of the best in terms of actual racism, because over there, they won't even go see your movie if there's a black guy on the poster. Let's just be completely honest, And they cut the lesbian scene out, the little kiss, right? They made such a big deal over here. They cut that out of China. So these people are trying to stand with these, for social justice here in America, but when it comes down to the money, no, the black guy's gone, right? He's gone. We're not going to worry about that. And the lesbians are out too.
Well, that's a topic I definitely want to touch deeper on. But this focus of this police reform, we're all in agreement, I believe, that police reform needs to happen. That's something that we need to see it. It's a part of the justice system, and the justice system clearly needs to see reform. I mean, we have places now that have pot legal, but the prisoners were not released for selling pot and stuff like that. So obviously there's a definite reform that needs to take place, and it needs to be sweeping in a lot of things, but still focused. And that's on the police reform itself, not on a societal reform. So when it comes to police reform, what do you guys think needs to be focused on? Do you guys have any ideas on that?
Oh yeah, the first thing, we need to get rid of qualified immunity. So I did look into that, and basically that is the doctrine in the law that says police officers and the police force are not liable for anything that happens civilly. So if they beat the crap out of some guy, you can't sue the police, right?
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people, right? They're against tort law and stuff like that, but that kind of stuff is important because if someone makes a mistake, you should be able to sue them, right? So they're in place so you can make people pay, and actually, then other people are like, holy crap, if we do this, we're going to be sued. We have precedent now. We got to stop doing it, and then it's really taking away an aspect that you can actually, control the police force. Society can actually control it. So I think that's as Justin Amash said, it's a tripartisan issue, right? Because the Democrats are for it, Republicans are for it, and Libertarians are for it. So I really hope that goes forward. I think that is one of the biggest things we can do.
Yeah.
And I have more, but I'll let someone else take a crack at it.
Well, I would like to see a zero tolerance policy on police brutality, and um,
Like, what do you mean?
in
You
this,
get fired?
yeah, you're gone. If you're found to be using excessive force, it wasn't merited, then yeah, you're gone.
Well,
If you're going against policies and cause harm to someone else, you're gone.
you mess up, right? I mean, are you saying there's no way back? There's no redemption? If, let's say, you make a mistake and yeah, you in the heat of the moment you use excessive force. I'm not saying you kill a guy, okay? But let's say you beat a guy up a little bit as a police officer. You're having a bad day. You had some psychological issues, whatever. You saying there's no way back? He's gone.
You're not allowed to have those issues as a police officer. That's what I'm saying.
I'm just asking. I don't know.
That's my view. My view is if you're in a position of authority like that, and you have an instance where you lose your cool, lose your temper, have a bad day, whatever, it's at the cost of a citizen, of their well-being, their life, whatever. So, I mean, how many times, and I don't know the statistics on this, we know in this case there were at least 2 police involved that had a previous record of brutality.
Yeah. So, but when you say brutality, I mean, how are we going to draw that line, that distinction?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they have to have, obviously they have these investigations,
Right.
and if they determine through that investigation that you used excessive force, then no, I don't think there's a place in the force for you.
But isn't
That's my
that
thought.
a problem they're having now, though, is they do investigations and they're like, nope, that's not excessive force.
Well, this is where
that could be.
yeah, this is where the public could be involved, right?
Yeah.
So
You need
so
an
they,
independent investigation.
well, okay, so we talked about this a little bit. I don't think it got into any of our recordings online, but if I'm to build a building, right, in Detroit, you have to first get it approved by a council, and this council is basically made up of people in the neighborhood, right? You got to say, I'm going to build this 5-story building. It's going to be here. What do you guys think? And there's some, give and take, and Detroit won't approve your permit unless you go through that process and you get the all clear from the people around. So I think there's I guess maybe a precedent, or there's a way to do that where you could have this independent counsel. Let's say, like, oh, we have this investigation of excessive force. If there's an investigation, something happened. That investigation has to go through that council, and if they deem that it was excessive force, regardless of the investigation, that guy gets a demerit, right? Because I want to put, there's obviously brutality and there's excessive force. And I say if you use excessive force, maybe that's a minor thing. That could be a minor thing, a little bit over the line. Maybe you slapped a guy. Now, brutality is like, oh, yeah, I kicked the guy in the head like 17 times. That's obviously you're gone, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, if there's a little bit of excessive force, maybe there's a little bit, you could save that guy, right?
So maybe that goes into a mandatory counseling.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
You have to go through a some kind of instructional class, something to get you back.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you get so many strikes from that council, right, then you're gone. It's kind of like a union rules. Like, no, the chief doesn't have control over that anymore. The police union doesn't have control over that anymore. They're just gone, and that's based on the community. And I think that would be a fair way, possibly, of having a little bit of balance.
Sure.
So,
in my mind.
With that system, would you agree with their? Some people are saying that there used to be a national database of this. So if you do get fired for police brutality, it goes on that list. So if you try to go, from Michigan to, Florida or something, when you go to try to get hired for the Florida police, they look you up in that database. Like, you were fired for police brutality. Like, sorry, we can't hire you.
I would agree with that.
I don't know if I agree with that, because you don't have that for teachers, right?
Right.
For like sexual misconduct, you don't have that for even guns, owning a light. You don't have, people flip out every time you have this national thing. And then you're also saying that no one can change, and I don't believe that either. And yeah, it's a terrible thing, but I mean, the people that are going to demonize these cops would also say a murderer can be redeemed, right? And they can be reintegrated in society. And if you believe that, then we got to believe that these guys can be redeemed too. I'm sorry, like I don't think it's you make one mistake, you're out. I mean, I think there should be some retraining, but if you do have obviously a history of it, then yeah, and these other police stations, they should be calling back on your references to find out, right? And that should be if there's brutality, that should be a requirement when they call, that you have to tell the other department.
That makes sense. I mean, it just sounds like a regular background check. I mean, that everyone has to pretty much do, though, when they do go get a job. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, well,
yeah,
and it should have to be forced to be stated. And would it make it harder for them to get a job? Yeah. I mean, you're the one who screwed up, so that's something you're gonna have to deal with.
Let me ask you, I mean, really, what's the difference if they are on a national registry or somebody is giving that information in a background check?
Because one is a centralized, controlled thing, and you know how things go. Just look at the no-fly list and how that was used on people just thought to be terrorists, right? It's just when you don't have local control of this stuff, it tends to get out of hand, and it becomes a bigger issue. So, yeah, I'm a libertarian, with like anarchist sympathies. I don't like these national, I guess, registries. Like I don't even think we have that for sex offenders, So you're gonna say if some guy slaps another guy on the side of a head? I don't think we do. I could be wrong on that.
There is a list, but I don't know if it's national or if it's state-based.
State has registries, but I don't think there's a national one. I could be totally wrong. I don't.
Right. That'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
But the other component, I think, guys, that I'd like to also talk about is I think there needs to be a higher level of training before you even become an officer. A lot of these officers take what do we say, a 6-week course or something, boot camp, and is it even 6 months? I don't think it's 6 months, is it?
I think
maybe
that's
it is
about the most. I think. I mean, it's
but
long.
I know a lot of it's training and the physical part and some of the laws, but I mean, I think the threshold should be at least an associate degree in criminal justice and then the boot camp before you can become a cop. Because I think there is some data showing that the more educated people are, right, the people that have 4-year degrees, those cops tend to not have these issues.
Well, real quick, there is a national sex offender public website. It's coordinated by the Department of Justice. It enables every citizen to see the latest information from all 50 states, D.C., Puerto Rico, and Guam, and numerous Indian tribes for the identity and location of known sex offenders. But getting back to your point,
they all come back to that one registry. Okay.
FBI.gov is sex offender registry website. So I agree. There needs to be more education. It needs to be longer than 6 months, maybe a year, 2 years. And because of this, though, you could even say that the police, because it's harder to do, because you have to have more education, that perhaps you maybe they get paid more. Maybe there's an internship process. Hey, we're gonna have you do this boot camp for 6 months, and then for the next 6 months, we're gonna have you once or a few times a week go in the field.
Yeah.
But at that time, we're still having to do more classes. It's been brought up before, but it just never got into our videos. We talked about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training, being the fact that it can be aggressive, can allow you to control the situation, and it teaches discipline. And most people don't know it, but if you go up against somebody that doesn't know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you know it, it doesn't matter how big they are, you're going to dominate. That's the whole point of that martial arts. So not only will it give you focus and a keen mind, it will allow you to control the situation and de-escalate it without using dangerous holds. You can actually manipulate someone's joints, control them. No, I'm going to put you down now.
That would be very helpful, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're not going to be kneeling on people's necks.
Exactly.
No,
the
you
important
should never
thing.
do that. I mean, that's pretty common sense.
Well, here's the tricky part. I did watch a video. This was like 2 years. It's 2 years old. There was an officer who took this lady down, and she was resisting, and he pivoted on her, put her knee on her lower back, and then it looked like his knee was right here on the back of her shoulders or possibly on her neck. But then when he had control, you saw all his weight was actually on the back part, because if she went to move, he wouldn't lose balance, and he ended up doing this little pivot move, and you could tell all his weight was on the back, and he spun around, grabbed the hands, and then handcuffed her. But it just appeared like it was back, but it didn't have any weight on it. So he was actually had it there it was just like so she would feel that something was there, but all his weight was on the lower back, so he could use that knee to pivot around. So it just appeared like that was going on, like she had that he had his knee on her neck, but there was no weight on it. So and that whole position allowed him just to take control. It was a brilliant move. It was a jiu-jitsu control. His weight was in the right spot in the middle of her body, so if she went to move, it controlled her. Because if he would have put all the weight on the other knee that was on the back and she tried to get up, he would have fell over because it wasn't centralized.
Right, but I guess the point, the overarching point here about that is that defund the police is, and I know when people say that, it's just an easy way of saying we need to reform it, not actually defund it.
Yes,
but
some people
taking,
say
yeah,
that. Some people mean it.
taking money away from the police is probably the worst thing you can do, right? Because then there's going to be less training, less standards. We should probably, if anything, put more money into it or increase training, right? So I think
reform,
it's a two-way.
Absolutely.
With reform. So we are going to increase your budgets and increase training, but you're going to, do this. So.
Yeah, I think it was from the Cato Institute. 90% of Americans polled, and they did do the breakdown, if I remember correctly. Minorities by women. They made sure it was actually a legit survey, so it actually reflected the population groups and sizes. And 90% said they wanted to keep the police numbers the same, and over 30% said they actually wanted to increase the police of that 90%.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells you that the American people aren't anti-police. We need police, let's be honest, right? Because even these places that are saying we're going to get rid of our police, they're looking to replace it with another system that pretty much is just police. You see it right now in the Chaz area. A guy was it Raz from Chaz, this rapper,
Raz from Chaz
has taken over, almost like a warlord, but in the sense he's police. He stopped somebody from graffitiing on a building, and he said, no, like, you're not allowed to do that. The owner of this building doesn't want you to do that. And this dude laughed at him and said, I don't care, I'm going to do it. So Raz and his group stopped the dude from doing it, and they're like, no, we don't care. And then one of his group's guys were like, we're the police now. It's just like one of those, we're the police now. So it's just like, it's funny.
Well, you always need police.
You're going to get that, right? And they're protecting the
you
property
need...
owners.
Yeah. You're protecting your property. So that was the whole point of the police. So, when you left your house to do something, you didn't come back and all of a sudden there's I found this house, no one's in it, and it's mine.
Right.
Yeah. That was like the whole point of it. It's not to enforce social good. It is only there to enforce. It's supposed to only be there to enforce property rights. Right? Now, our police in the modern world, they obviously have gone farther than that, right? So, it's drugs and prostitution and gambling, all this other stuff that now they police, and it's like, well, that wasn't technically the organic intent of what these people were supposed to be.
Everybody knows about the two sons. Move on.
Don't put too much thought in it, just get it done. That's pretty much how I do everything at work, too.